So here we are. I've chosen 5 minutes of the whole presentation from Alex, and we are going to edit this part. And in this lesson, we are going to learn how to use this player panel, which is the inspector. I'd like to clarify a couple of things that I didn't say in the last lesson because I simply forgot, which are how to zoom in and out of the timeline. And the command to do it is you hold Control or Command if you're from Mac, and you use your scroll wheel, and that allows you to do it quicker. So I'll do that a bunch of times. And then if you ever forget about a shortcut, you can find it right here. There is an entire list, and you can also change them if you want. I highly suggest you to leave everything on default, because if you have the same shortcuts as default, doesn't matter what PC you're editing on or web version, you will not have to reset every time all the shortcuts, etc, etc. Therefore, I highly suggest you to leave everything on default. And now let's get on this inspector panel. On the first part, the video part, you can see 4 options right here. So let's start with the first one. On basic, you can see the scale, so how much the image is zoomed in, the position, so how far to the right, left, top or bottom the image is. And you can always change these numbers also by using the handles right here or by moving the image like this. And for the rotate, you can either use this one or type a number. You can also use keyframes. Keyframes are a way to save a certain statistic of the image at a certain second. So for example, at second 0, the scale of the clip is 100%. Then if I go forward, it can be 404. So if I play this through, this is going to slowly increase over and over until it reaches the second keyframe where it is 404. If you want a complete keyframe breakdown with how to use these kind of graphs and stuff like that, I highly suggest you to check my course on my profile page, and you will find it. It's called Keyframe Mastery. But back to the inspector. After the position and size, we have the blend mode. To show you the blend mode, I've brought in a couple of gradients. And here's how they work. When you use the blend mode, you basically decide how you want your image or video, in this case image, to interact with the other videos of image. So if the blend mode is normal, this is going to show normally above it. Nothing changes. But you also have a lot of more options. For example, brighten, which basically allows the white light from the image to come, but the black light is ignored. You can do the opposite with darken. As you can see, the dark light comes and the white one is ignored. The best blending modes are overlay, which is really good for color grading, and we'll get to that later. And then also screen. The screen blend mode is useful if, for example, you have something like this, a black screen, and in the center of the image there is an image or a video. Basically it's screen and all the black stuff disappears, so you can put the art, for example, on the bottom, and this is how it looks like, simply by blending it on screen mode. And then you can also find other ways of blending your image, but they are not really necessary for anything, so I'll just skip them. We have also opacity that we can use depending on how much we want to show our image, 0 being not showing. And you can play with this to create some fade-ins, for example, with also keyframes. Then we have the stabilize. What this does is removing the camera shakes that might be there because the cameraman was an amateur or the camera wasn't stable and it was moving. There are 3 different levels, from a medium to a minimum to the most stable. You can decide, but in most cases you don't need this. Then we have some pro features, which we're not going to go into. We have motion blur that allows you to add blur to a moving image. This is a really good addition that just got added. You can see while he's moving that there is some blur. And if I toggle it off, you can see it clearly disappears. This is a really good addition by CapCut. And then we have canvas. That is a really useful feature. If, for example, your clip is on a 9:16, but your clip is 16:9, what you can do is you apply a canvas. Let's choose this one. And as you can see, you have a playing clip in the background which is blurred out. You can decide how much you want it blurred. And I want to make clear that this feature is only available for the clips in the main timeline. If I have this other clip, for example, and I go at the bottom, I will not see the canvas option, but I will see layers. And let me explain what layers are real quick. To show how layers work, I got 3 different colored screens so that you can clearly see the difference. The third layer is the one that you see. So if I want to move this layer backwards, I will click either 2 or 1, and another one is going to be on layer 3. So right now the red screen is on layer 3, as you can see. If I put this in layer 2, the white screen is going to go on layer 3. That's as simple as that. If I put this in layer 1, the red screen is going to appear, as you can see. And now, since the yellow is in layer 2, if I go on the red screen and put layer 2, it is going to switch with the yellow. That's as simple as that. You can use this feature if, for example, you want to put a smaller screen and a larger screen on the background. So if right here I wanted to put this kind of image as a face cam, for example, like this, I simply could. And the rest of the video could be the image, or if I'm making a gaming video, it could be the gaming gameplay. And on the top, you can see the face cam. And now that we have covered every single feature of the basics, let's go on the cutout. In the cutout, you can find some really good features. The first one is chroma key. Chroma key is really useful if, for example, you want to remove a green screen, which are clips that are specifically designed for this feature, and you can find them for free on internet, on YouTube, for example. I usually look them up there. You click on the green screen, and then you choose your strength, and if you have some parts where, as you can see, it's getting kind of ruined, you can apply a bit of shadow and play with the controls until you have what you want. And now, as you can see, we have a complete image with the background removed, which is perfect. If we don't have a green screen, we can also use auto cutout, which only works for people. So if I click on it, it will process, and as you can see, we have the same results. Although I usually prefer the green screen because, as you can see, there are some parts which aren't perfect. We can now move on to the masking. How does masking work? It's fairly simple. You click on the masking option that you prefer. So for logos, it is usually circle. To give you an example, but just for the sake of doing this, I'll click on horizontal. And this basically allows you to cancel a certain part of the clip. For example, if I want only to show the first part, and then you can use a bit of feather to smooth things out. As you can see, you can also create a really cool effect with this. If you put it all the way below and you apply feather, you're going to create this kind of effect where it is slightly black, and this is really used in content creation, especially short form content. And also when subtitles appear from the bottom, there is usually this kind of feather effect. You can also use this normally to, for example, split a clip perfectly in the middle and make, for example, a comparison. There are also other kind of masks. You can also use the circle, for example, for face cams if you want. As you can see, you can do whatever you want with this kind of masks. You can also, if you want to cut out a specific part of the image, for example, I have this end, but I don't want it to show, I can click on reverse mask, and it is going to show everything but the end. I can move it, and as you can see, it has hidden the end. I could use it, for example, for something like this. As you can see, there is a mask, and there is the character in the middle. And then we have enhance, which allows you to enhance the faces in your image. For example, this one was identified. And you can choose smoothness, brightness. You can also change the face, make it slimmer, bigger. You can shorten the face. There are also a lot of controls for the body. For example, you see, slimming the neck. I don't usually play with this as I like to keep the people that are talking real. I don't like to modify their physical appearance. I don't think it's right, but you can do whatever you want, of course. Let's talk about the rest of the parts of the inspector tool. The second function here is the audio. Now, the audio is pretty self-explanatory. You can raise it, you can lower it, you can use keyframes to add custom volume. You can fade the audio in, as you can see right here, or fade it out, as you can see here. You can use noise reduction, even though it doesn't work really well. I highly suggest to use Adobe Podcast. It's a free AI software that allows you to enhance every single audio. You can use vocal isolation, even though it's a paid feature. You can use this feature if, for example, there is someone talking over some kind of music. You can use this feature to type keep vocal, and it's basically going to remove the music and keep the voice, or vice versa if you click remove vocal. You cannot export the video if you use this feature, but you can re-record your screen using a software like OBS and then re-import what you recorded. And then we have channels, which is a feature that we won't use. Then we go on speed, and this is a pretty important part. So when it comes to speed, there are 3 ways to control the speed of a clip. First, using this handle, so by making it faster or slower. As you can see, the clip gets bigger if it goes slower, of course, and smaller if it goes faster. You can go up to 100x. Usually the max you should go is 10x because otherwise you can't really see what's happening. And then there is another way to control the speed. If you want it to fit an exact time frame, for example, if you want it long exactly 5 seconds, you can use this arrow right here, and it is going to tell you the exact speed that you need to have a clip that is long 5 seconds. In this case, it's 7.8 speed. You can also change the voice tone so that it doesn't sound weird, but that's up to you. And then the third way to control the speed, which is the best one, is by going on curve and choosing a speed ramp. Regarding speed ramping, there are these 6 pre-made presets, which are pretty good. I usually use this one and modify it if I need to. For example, I can go with something like this, and I've recreated something like this ear time, as you can see. It's completely customizable. What this does is, as you can see, the speed goes up here, and then it slows down, and it's currently slowed down. And then it slowly keeps going, and keeps improving its speed until it gets to 1 speed again, and this is normal speed. This is really useful for transitions and stuff like that. Just make sure to use smooth slow motion, because as you can see here, it looks like it's frame lagging, you see? Instead, if you use smooth slow motion, especially optical flow, it is going to be way smoother. Here's what it looks like with some optimal flow. As you can see, there is this kind of motion blur and it looks way smoother. And now let's move on to animation. Animation is one of the most useful parts of the inspector tool, as it allows you to have in transitions, out transitions, and especially combo transitions. We will use them later to create some cool graphics, so don't worry about this, we'll come back to them. Regarding the in and out transitions, there are some like the fade in. You can decide its length, and once you put the fade in, this is what happens to the clip. It slowly fades in, and it's of course the same for the fade out. And combo transition basically happen for as much as you want. If I were, for example, to choose this flip forward transition from the combo ones, as you can see, it is doing this kind of thing. And it doesn't really work out for long videos like this. Now, here there is a part for motion tracking. I've tried to use this multiple times when you start to track an object, either with text or you try and make the position track. But I've never had success with this, as it doesn't really work great. It doesn't follow what you tell him to. So my suggestion, if you don't know how to track with keyframes, again, I made a course on keyframes. They're one of the most useful tools ever. And then we get to adjustment, and in the adjustment panel, there is all kind of color correction. At the end of this course, there is a specific section that is reserved to color correction, so I'll get on touch on that later.